Space Living with CTM takes us on a tour of 8 different spaces with 8 talented designers. We take a look at some of the beautiful interiors they've designed and how they go about putting their creative touch to small spaces. A well-designed kitchen is a worthwhile investment. Do it right and it will truly become the heart of your home. Designer Claire Clark of By Design Interiors shares a recent project she's completed, showcasing space and refinement.
The most important thing about a kitchen is functionality. Yes, the kitchen is the heart of the home and it's got to look the most beautiful place in the house, because really a kitchen sells a home at the end of the day. But if the functionality of the kitchen's not there, the whole kitchen falls down. I think when you're designing your own kitchen and starting from scratch, one of my design philosophies is don't try and make everything a feature. So this kitchen had to be really integral to the very open living space to the house. We also needed to make sure that it appealed to a really broad spectrum of person, because this house was built to be sold. We've kept the kitchen really neutral, and it's all very white, very clean lines, which is very appealing to most people, because then anybody could come in and add their touch and their feel as to how they want the kitchen to feel at the end of the day. So the colour scheme here is very monochromatic. We started off with the wall colour being almost like a bone colour, so it's not white, it's a real off-white that just adds a warmth, because white in itself is actually quite stark. But then we also wanted to add some elements to it, or some features to it that weren't just pure white. So instead of just going with a plain white splashback and countertop, we went for a marble look. The eating table in the kitchen also carries the colour scheme through, so we've gone with the white chairs but brought in a back table to tie into the rest of the colour scheme within the kitchen. So on the floors in this house we've gone for a really large format tile. That is a matte tile, so it gives a really good feeling underfoot. There's a grain running through the tile, and that really ties in really nicely with the engineered stone that we've used as the splashback. So the two really complement each other really well. So the layout and the design for this kitchen is really one where the functionality of cooking happens on the back wall of the kitchen. There's a huge prep space in the island section. We also then went with a concealed look in there's no handles, so it's all what we call finger grip pull on all the drawers. Things that I like to use in a kitchen that really make it home for me is adding plants. I love greenery in any space, so a kitchen is where things are meant to grow and be made, so for me plants are really important. And then also put trays on your countertops and decorate them nicely, so put interesting bowls out that you feel are interesting to you and that add the character to the space that you like.
Demonstrating that size doesn't mean a compromise in style when it comes to small space living, Claire designed and renovated an outbuilding for a client. The space used to consist of 3 separate rooms, which Claire opened up to form an opulent guest suite, complete with its own kitchen and bathroom.
The first thing that I had to start with was the floor plan. I did a number of different layouts to see which was going to work best, because we were limited with the number of walls that we had to work with and the length of the wall. So the room's rather long, but it's very, very narrow. So the main focus of the room is really the kitchen area. So, well, while it's a kitchen, it's also the wardrobe as well. So it was how does one incorporate all those requirements into a tiny 2.5 meter space. So once we got that, it was then having a look at what colors one used. I knew I wanted the floor light, but then I kept the one wall which has the kitchen on it in a darker tone so that it sort of recesses back into the space. So I went with a cream tile on the floor, and I wanted a large format tile even though it's in a small space. I think it's a good way to almost accentuate the small space that you do have and lay it to the length of the room to almost give you an illusion of more space than you've got. And then for the kitchen splashback, there was again a consideration to go a lot darker, but instead I wanted to add a bit of a sheen and a shine to the space, so I rather went with a glass mosaic tile for the splashback. One of the biggest challenges in working in a really small space is trying to fit as much as you can into a small space. So I really had to go with what was going to fit within the space. So I've gone with a drop-in basin for the kitchen. And the tap also really had to be set off to the side, so we had to have an arm that could move on the tap, and I also needed a retractable on the tap so that one could reach further places within the very small space of the kitchen. Make use of open shelving as well, because I think that gives you space that doesn't feel built in but still gives you another surface to put things on. I think for me the place I always start off with is keep it neutral. It was really just a matter of different textures complementing each other and different shades of the same tone. And I think the overall result has been one that we're really proud of, and I'm really happy with how much we managed to get into this space and how useful and how functional it is going to be for the clients.
When it comes to creating the ultimate small space kitchen, keep the following in mind. The most important aspect of any kitchen is functionality. When designing your kitchen, don't try to make everything a feature. Large format tiles can make a small space feel bigger. Open shelving creates additional space to store items. A drop-in basin is a space-saving solution for a small kitchen, as it creates a minimalist look. To maximize on-counter space, opt for a drop-in hob that sits flush with the countertop. Fruit baskets and plants add life to any kitchen. Keep small kitchens neutral, as this allows for different color schemes to be introduced into the space. Glass mosaic tiles add texture and interest when used as a backsplash. Decorative ornaments can be introduced in the form of interesting bowls and styled trays.